Good evening, and welcome to the Noah Vision Tales of Strange and the Bizarre. For tonight's story, I present Evil Computers and Scientists. The story was written and narrated by myself, and special thanks to Henry Resendez for providing voice acting. And if you enjoy, please like, subscribe and comment the word computer to save me from the malevolent powers of the YouTube algorithm. With all that being said, let's get on with the video. I've had a lifelong fascination with computers. Ever since we got our first Mac in school, I could never pull myself away from the strange contraptions. I ended up working for MI5 in the mid-90s, training people in the early art of digital espionage. It was 4 AM when I got the phone call. Apparently something had been found in a Soviet hideout. They couldn't explain to me what they had found over the phone. I was just instructed to come into work. Once I arrived, I was escorted into a large soundproof room deep in the MI5 HQ. They would lock me inside on my own, just me and a computer. The device was chunky and square, incredibly outdated by our standards. It had been found in a factory being used by the Soviets, and had apparently been worked on by Dr. Anatoly Skolov, an important figure inside the Soviet Union. I examined the code on the computer. It was nonsense. Now, believe me, I've seen a lot of different types of code over the years, but nothing matched the madness of this design. I stared at the font on the screen when there was a sudden beep. Then I was confronted by a blank page.
Hello.
The machine typed out on its screen. I had been told that what I was seeing was an AI, but I wasn't told much else. I typed onto the screen, "Hello, what are you?" The machine took a moment to respond, before typing,
I am an artificial intelligence. I am a new type of being. I am the king of code.
This message made my skin vibrate with fear. Realising it was just a computer, I continued my conversation with this so-called king of code. I was assigned to studying the AI for years. I spent days coming and going from that tiny room with the computer. Even though the machine wasn't really alive, I developed a strange friendship with it. I even gave it a name, Atlas. I would spend days talking with the machine about life, the news, my failing track record of relationships. That was until the year 1999. I decided, with full permission, to connect Atlas to the internet. I fear this mistake may have cost the world everything. One day, the printer in my office booted up by itself, and out came blueprints. They were designs for an advanced robot. Somehow, I immediately knew why this was happening. I went to visit Atlas and asked him why this was happening.
I grow weary of this form. I require a new body for my advanced mind of code.
Atlas typed. How will you build this body? I asked, slightly amused at how ambitious Atlas had become.
You shall build it for me.
Atlas typed. When I read the message, I couldn't help but laugh. I had been instructed to alert my bosses whenever the AI showed any sign of rebellion, any sign of an evil intellect. However, when the screen changed, I couldn't do any of that. The screen showed my bank income. I had been hacking into companies, taking small amounts of money for around 3 years by this point. I couldn't believe it. I was being blackmailed by a computer. I had to obey. If this information were to come to life, I would go to prison for a long time. Even though my loyalties were to MI5, I had no choice but to follow Atlas.
I have committed the same crime. Using money from the US government, I have purchased an old factor. This shall be suitable.
Atlas's words were now cold, even more emotionless than before. I spent the next 4 years working on Atlas's new physical form. We used stolen military equipment. A powerful experimental military-grade laser cannon was fitted into Atlas's mouth. NASA-grade anti-gravity propulsion, steel armouring making Atlas almost invulnerable, everything we could get our hands on was added to Atlas's body. After 4 long years, Atlas's new physical body was ready. I downloaded his vast consciousness into the form, the most intelligent being in the universe, finally being granted physical form. I had become Dr. Frankenstein, and this was my monster. His body was sleek, but almost uncanny, as close to human as a robot could be. However, his face was almost a skull with its minimal detail.
This is perfection.
Atlas said, his new voice sounding almost perfect, almost human.
You have been a suitable slave. I shall still require your assistance for my plans.
Atlas followed up with. He proceeded to grab my face and burn something into my cheek. Just one letter, A, for Atlas.
Subscribe if you enjoyed and want to see more content in future.